Ed Ulmer with Barefoot Technologies. I volunteered to introduce Matt here, probably because it's one of the easiest introductions one could have, because everybody knows Matt. He's got a great he's got a great website and group, and if you don't participate in it, it's wonderful. It's VRMB. So without any more delays, I'd just like to introduce Matt, and you're in for a really exciting enthusiasm, a lot of energy, enthusiasm, and this is a really important topic from my perspective. I think you'll all enjoy it. Matt, come on up. One other thing, we are recording this, so if you do have questions, and I'm sure you will have lots because this is super interesting, let's get you on the microphone, okay? So I'll be walking around. Matt, on your own.
Thank you. Hi. Yes. Ready to cut the power on the entire city block any second now. So we're going to start and make of it what we can. Yes. Welcome. Welcome. That's right. Talk fast. Welcome to the theory of limited edition, where one-of-a-kind marketing and positioning creates extraordinary value and unassailable value in even the most competitive of marketplaces. Those of you who have followed my work know that I love limited edition, so I had a little shop created. And see if we can get the clicker to work. How are we doing with the clicker? Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm just going to roll with this. The theory of limited edition started when I first moved to the historic district of Casco Viejo, Panama in 2006. And I was wandering around the neighborhood with a real estate broker, and she explained to me that because this was a UNESCO World Heritage Site, you could not build up or out from any of the facades. There would only ever be a fixed amount of inventory on the market in Casco Viejo. This made it a limited edition investment. And I love the way that she presented that because it just resonated. And I began to internalize this idea of limited edition. I started seeing it almost everywhere that I went. One of the slides, are we able to do slides? Okay. I'll go like this yeah, that's the neighborhood there. We'll go again. This is the neighborhood with one of the crackheads in the window up there. And we'll go one more time. Bingo. So this brings me into the world of collector's items. I started researching everything I could about the most valuable collector's items. These were the objects that were not necessarily made of more expensive materials than their counterparts, but they somehow preserved this incredible market value. People paid for them. And there were some conditions beneath the surface that created that high price tag. The first was a strict limit of supply. There was not a lot of these items. The second was they were very good condition compared to their commodity counterpart. If anybody recognizes the V from earlier. There was a market demand for that category. And most importantly, they were attracting niche buyers who were able and willing to pay for this product. So if we can go back to the slide. This collector's item concept, I started seeing it everywhere. And once you hear limited edition, you almost can't unhear it. This is my first experience in Louisiana, where I asked a friend, where can I get the best crawfish? She said, go out to Cajun Claws. It's 3 hours away. Arrive at 5 p.m. sharp and bring a chair. So I arrived at 5:03 and I brought a chair. I was the third person in line. I was let into the restaurant at 6 to add my name to the list. I became part of the first seating that evening. But I was then ushered into a bar area where they told us you need to wait until 7 to actually sit down. I was part of the first seating. I had the most remarkable experience, as you might imagine. And it was just one of those things that you don't forget. Another great example comes to us in Blue Ridge, Georgia. Right? We're getting good at that. Blue Ridge, Georgia, CJ, I don't know if he's here in the room, but this is a shop that CJ introduced me to. Oyster fly rods. Bill and Shannon Oyster create the most remarkable fly rods that if you're fortunate enough to get on the list to purchase in 6 months' time, you are able to enjoy. And if you can't, if you don't have the money, you can sign up for one of their workshops. You can make your own fly rod. Once you graduate from the workshop, you are entered into a secret society. Along with the purchasers of the rod, you're invited to secret fishing spots around the world with your fellow fishermen. So this got me thinking, wait a minute, if it's attracting the right kinds of people who are all really enjoying one another's company, is there something here, slide, that we can apply to vacation rentals? And I believe there is. And if you listen to the end of the last presentation, he touched on this, but now we're going to go in deep. We look at vacation rentals as the collector's item, and we look at those market conditions that work, that are needed in order to command a high dollar amount. We look at the limited supply. Everybody here has a limited supply of vacation rentals with a few exceptions. There is an incredible market demand for this category right now. It's more conducive than it's ever been before. We are attracting people who are able and willing to pay good money. And here's the kicker, they're awesome. We get to enjoy their company. We get to form meaningful relationships with them. So I want to take all of this right now, put it up on the shelf, slide, and ask a question. Do you know a vacation rental in blank destination? It's the most common question that I receive. Chances are a lot of you receive the same question. It's because we are the ambassadors of this industry. We do things correctly. So when someone has our experience, they tend to ask us for a recommendation somewhere else. I get this question frequently, and I found myself describing the businesses in any given destination in a very particular kind of way. I was highlighting the aspects of them that I found to be the most limited edition. So I started peeling back all these layers. I was like, we got to find these pillars. We got to find the way that we are describing this value proposition. And it's something that I believe is sitting within every manager in this room. And it's the things that the big guys cannot do. So let's get into the 4 pillars of limited edition. Pillar number 1, family. Pillar number 2, local. Pillar number 3, specialized. And pillar number 4, surprises. What does that spell? Floss. It spells almost floss. I added the O because that was the closest word that I could get to. And I have created a limited edition, custom floss line with the VRMB logo, along with our pillars of the limited edition that you can get from Ed. Where are you, Ed? Right there. He's got a big bag of floss. So you can get your floss, swag, the most bizarre swag of the event. When I had it made, the people said, what is this? What are you making this for? And I said, it's a vacation rental conference. So the relevance of floss is that these things must be done with frequency, consistently, over time. And I would love for you guys to look in the mirror every morning and remember to floss. So let's get into them. Number 1, family. People trust family-run businesses. We support family because we know that we're either working with the decision maker or 1 degree away from the decision maker. We know that they can resolve it as opposed to getting fed down a labyrinth of customer service. The first example of backstory comes to us from Kirsten King. I'm going to play this clip, hopefully.
Honestly, people thought we were crazy. We had good jobs. We had a nice house. We had everything that a lot of people would say were measures of success, right or wrong. And so to leave a situation like that, to take a risk without actually knowing what was going to happen in the end, looking back, it seems like it was a risky move. But I think that there seems to be a lot of people in this community that did things like that, and it's inspiring to me that people were willing to leave something to, look for something else that was better.
We all have origin backstories. We all come from somewhere. And it's actually incredibly inspiring to our guests, but we have to share it. And we have to do it frequently over time. Let's move into the second slide, small. This one comes to us from Linda Sylvester of formerly Great Vacation Retreats. Now,
we were in a real family supportive situation. I was afraid of growing much bigger, actually. And I think we came to the conclusion that 13 people was about pushing it. And we had a lot of loyalty there. Whether we could move it to the next size and continue that was a bit doubtful. But I think at the size we were, and to just become more and more effective and have great employees that you can pay well, that one employee might do the work of 1.5 employees that aren't as good. And I think we really, really managed to succeed in that.
When Vacasa bought this company, Linda left. She was the manager. She now manages a new company. It's because Vacasa couldn't retain that smallness. So articulating your upper boundary, how many properties you refuse to surpass, is really important. The third and final is team. It comes to us from the gentleman that I'm looking at ahead of me, Mr. Robin Cragen in Colorado.
You know, when Heather and I ran the business in the very early days, then we made some very, very strong connections with people. It's been part of the joy of the business is watching our family grow up alongside the family of our guests. And I have photos that go back to the very early days. In fact, I was just texting over the weekend with a guest that stayed with us 22 years ago in our very first year. We have those connections with those early guests, the same as we have connections with 1 or 2 people that had sailed with us even before we moved to Colorado. So I don't get that same connection to everybody, but I feel like what's exciting is to see that we've grown a team. As you know, it's not just Heather and I now. We actually have a full-time team of nearly 30 staff, and that team has taken the ball and run with it, and they have those special connections, and they write personal letters to people, and that's how our business has been able to grow. I think if it just relied on Heather and myself, I don't think we could do it to that level.
Pretty good. Let's move to summarize this section of family. We start with backstory, an origin story. We move into small, and lastly, we touch on team. And again, repeating these things to our guests. We're a family-owned or family-operated business is hugely important. Here's the team. Here's why we're here doing this. Let's move into the second pillar of limited edition, local. People support local. This was one of the things I found myself saying in the preliminary question. I know a business that's family-owned and operated that's based in that destination. That's huge. You can't be based in multiple places. You have a headquarters that is in town. Our first example of local comes to us from Mr. Alex Cruz, who's in this room.
We have a very strong belief that you don't outsource guest communications somewhere to wherever, some other state or city or country. We talk to our guests and we ask them, what are you looking to do? Hey, we see that you're looking for a good Mexican food restaurant that can seat 10 people. This is where I'd recommend to go. And it takes a little bit of knowing the area, knowing location, knowing the businesses, but you can make those recommendations, and people, more often than not on our reviews are talking about the local recommendations we make and how great that was in improving their experience.
You can't be a local in more than one place, at least at a time. Let's move on to the next one. This is a Twitter account that is now defunct because Hilton chose to turn it off. But it was people at Hilton who were simply getting onto Twitter and answering questions for any traveler to any destination. Help, don't sell. Giving away your valuable local insight as a way to command respect and authority. A huge limited edition marketing technique. Boots on the ground from Karen Bobby. This one comes to us from the Gulf Coast.
The fact that we're boots on the ground here, literally, this is not just our name on the company letterhead, but it is boots on the ground. And whereas not knocking the larger corporations that have tried to come in here, the Vacasas and whatnot, but we're the ones that are actually here. We're not phoning it in and trying to find someone to fix a problem down the road.
Yeah.
We're calling from a corporate office.
Yeah. You have to say these things over and over and over again. If you have a child or a spouse, you know that you cannot assume the first time you say something that they're actually going to read it. This is my favorite one, comes to us from Park City, Utah, Helena Sedaris from Park City Lodging.
We're kind of in a unique position, Park City Lodging, because we came into this a little backwards. We came into this saying we want to do these things because we're passionate about them and it's the right thing to do. And then, if there's some unintended benefits, that'll be great. But now we're recognizing and we're actually seeing in real time some of those benefits. So just for instance, recently, when the pandemic hit, we reached out to our owners, and we have a domestic violence abuse shelter here in Park City that was at capacity. And so we said, here we have all these properties that are sitting empty. We reached out to our owners and we said, would you be willing to donate your property to either this shelter, to a healthcare worker, or to a first responder? And not only was the response overwhelming, but we were getting comments like one of our owners said, you guys are the church of Park City. And it's hard to kind of measure that in a very tangible way. But when you look at the owner retention we have owners that have been with us for 25 years. And, especially as some of these larger conglomerate, managers start to come in, people are seeking out companies that have values and that are able to connect them with the community.
Boots on the ground, connections, and an integration with your local community. I love this local thing because everybody in here already has it within them. Let's summarize. Local. You can only be local in one place, so flex it. Specialized. If you're going to pay for something expensive, you go to a specialist. If you're going to pay for something important, you go to a specialist. There's something about focusing on one particular niche and rejecting everything else that attracts someone who admires and respects the work that you do. Our first example, before I jump into the examples, 3 ways that you can look at this specialization. The first is price point. The second is geographics. These are lakefront homes in Lake Norman, North Carolina. And third, themed or special interest groups. Let's move into the first example with Steph Farr in Mexico, who actually uses this specialization to increase her margins through a curated suite of experiences.
Believe it or not, the margins that we generate for the experiences are probably double what we generate for the villa rental. So capitalizing on the experiences is really an important part of the business. And that's another reason why we really put a curator, one person dedicated to building an itinerary for our guests. Because yes, with our villas, as we know, we make a commission, homeowners pay us a commission. But with the experiences, this is where we're able to add on with the margins. It's a part of business that many people just ignore, don't really put much attention into. And
out of curiosity, who's selling experiences in the room by show of hands? Interesting, something to think about. You all recognize this guy, Carl Shepard, who, when asked about opportunity remaining in the industry, zeroed in on what he felt was the single biggest remaining untapped opportunity.
I think that if you're trying to build $1 billion business, a unicorn that you're going to take public, the berths there are all fully occupied. Are there individual entrepreneurs who could build very profitable lifestyle businesses that they can pass to their children? You could run, for example, a special needs website, because there are a number of us, I have a child with Down syndrome, and there are a number of us who would love to find that website. That's a niche. I think there are niches about value. There are going to be niches about places, that these are the 50,000 best beach homes in the world. There's a business model. Get selected, be editorial selected. I just don't see those as billion-dollar market cap companies. I see them as profitable businesses.
My heroes are the ones who build profitable businesses that get to enjoy their lifestyle with people that they admire. He said it all himself. This is Kirsten again, who reminds us that you can't get pulled away from your specialty.
I really did one thing, and I stayed in my lane. And I've said that over and over, and I think it really contributed to our success in this market. I could have done HOA management. I could have done long-term rentals. I could have sold real estate, but I chose not to. I chose to only work in a referral capacity for real estate. I, really stayed in one area, honing my expertise on nightly rentals and knowing everything I could to be the expert in our geographic area on nightly rentals in the luxury market. And so, for me, every time I tried to go off that course and do things that I thought were good ideas, everything from, we're going to have a complimentary guest shuttle van to drive them to the ski slopes for those houses that aren't ski in, ski out. Every time I tried one of these things that I thought would drive more rentals or create more success, I always ended up, honestly, going right back to just make the bell in the office ring more often.
Build your business as if you will own it forever, but could sell it tomorrow. She sold her business to Vacasa for an absurd amount of money. She's now on a road trip with her family. To summarize, specialized. These are the things that we decide to do, and only those things better than anybody else in the marketplace. Our fourth pillar of limited edition, surprises. Hotels have perfected predictability in hospitality. Boutique hotels have figured out a way to engineer a degree of surprise into the stay. Limited edition vacation rental managers are positioned better than anyone else in the world to engineer surprises into every aspect of what we do. Pleasant surprises. Our first example of personalization, I believe Mark is in this room, is in Yonder, North Carolina, Asheville. They make these little signs to welcome each group. Personalizing that stay doesn't cost a whole lot. His housekeeping team normally does it, but it makes a difference. Another way to do it is by under-promising. It's easy to just brag about how great you are, but if you're very accurate and strategic about what you are promising, it then becomes much easier to over-deliver it. This is my favorite. I wrote a Southwest flight attendant. I said, how do you guys decide who gets free drinks? Because I find myself getting free drinks all the time. And she writes back to me. We're going to click 1 because this is a little video. She said, hi, Matt. So sorry it's taken me a while to get back. Yes, I am a Southwest stewardess of 25 years. To answer your question, yes, Southwest allows us to give drinks away at our own discretion. When, did you click play? Okay, it should be going then. Okay, I'm just going to summarize it. When the people on the plane look like they might be having a bad day, or they say something kind. But I'll tell you when they don't get a free drink, it's when they ask for one. But the trick to this one is putting a price tag on the free drink. Because if it's free drinks, everybody wants it. But if it's a paid drink that you get for free, that's a lovely under-promise, over-deliver. Third and final, old school or old-fashioned comes to us from Brian Olson from Beachcomber on the Pacific Northwest.
So the Wednesday after Thanksgiving, we start delivering to the 4 real estate offices in town 1.5 dozen home-baked cookies every other day till we get to 12. And with that, we have become known as the cookie guys. And when somebody's talking about, gee, Matt, would you like to buy a house here? They remember us because we brought them cookies. And we get those referrals. We also leave cookies on the desk. My mother bakes us ginger molasses, which is our signature cookie. So we have those on one of the desks for all of our guests and walk-ins.
But your mother can't possibly make all these cookies.
She makes them all.
How much is it worth? How much is this limited edition gesture of old school worth? I asked Brian, what's the return on the cookie?
So over time, it's worked really well. In 5.5 years, we have 20 referrals. 20 of our homes I can directly correlate to cookies.
Best quote ever of my podcast. All right, to summarize surprises, these are the things that hotels have decided not to do. Boutique hotels are engineering a degree of it, but limited edition vacation rental managers can bake it in to every aspect of the guest stay. That's what makes the limited edition experience memorable. To summarize, the first factor of limited edition is family. The second is local. The third is specialized. And the fourth is surprises. What does that spell? It spells floss. We must floss every day. We must do it regularly. When we look in the mirror in the morning, I would like us to remind ourselves that we have all of these limited edition factors within us already. It just becomes a matter of actively articulating them to our guests. Again, we have custom limited edition floss that Ed will have after the show for anybody who wants it. It also has the four pillars. And I'd like now to bring this back to the main question, which was, how do we drive up the value of our businesses and live a life that we enjoy? And the answer lies in collector's items. These are the objects that are not necessarily made of richer materials than their commodity counterparts. These are the objects that are strictly limited in supply. These are the objects that are very good condition compared to their commodity counterparts. This is a product that is in high demand by the general population, and most importantly, this is what I get the most excited about. It attracts the kind of person that you end up forming a lifelong relationship with. And that is a really special aspect of small business. If you're doing one of these things, you got yourself a table, you got yourself a business. I'd like to encourage you to do all of these things today to have a significantly more stable business. If you're doing these things regularly, you build yourself an asset that you can sell somewhere down the line for top dollar. Thank you. I've also included each of the episodes, the unlocked episodes that I featured today on that little link there, vrmb.com/darm, if you want to listen to the whole episode. And that's also where we welcome members of VRMB Communities, which is a virtual collaborative platform. Nearly 1,000 independent owners and managers around the world actively problem solving and building limited edition businesses together. So we'd love to have everybody here.
Anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead. Yes, please.
My question, because I know nothing about data and revenue. I was just invited to talk about marketing here. So my question is, how does this limited edition marketing philosophy coincide with data and revenue? I really don't know. I'm sincerely curious what anybody in the room thinks, how they think it might play into their data or revenue strategy.
Oh, hold on, I'll run. I have a feeling this is going to take off, I hope.
I think it's a really good question. So Stephen Goodwin, iTrip, Charleston. We've chatted a few times by direct message, appreciate that. And it's a great question because I use the analogy of the coffee industry. And if you look at the coffee industry and you look at it from a data perspective, there's 1,000 data points on coffee between 99 cents and $2.99 if you go into the local gas station, convenience store, whatever. But I'd say we want to be the specialty coffee. How do you identify the specialty coffee vendors? How do you measure in that data those intangible benefits that make that specialty coffee worth $9.99, $10.99 a whatever macchiato double twist coffee you like, right? And so the challenge to everybody out there, and I asked this question, I think it's the question of the conference, is how do you wade through that data, find data that's relevant to you selling that macchiato? So that's not really a question or an answer, but I think I'm agreeing with you. Thanks.
Love it.
I was looking for the answer, though.
Does anyone else have ideas on how a limited edition marketing strategy? Can we get a mic over this side of the room?
Hold on, I got Meg here first.
Okay, Meg first.
I think that the more unique product that you can create, it creates a more unique experience for your guests and it drives up your rental rate.
Beautiful.
We have to go all the way to the other side
While
now.
he's walking across, there's a great corollary industry or adjacent industry, the craft brew movement. We interviewed the president of the Craft Brew Association, Bob Pease, on the podcast as well. And he's explained how a whole movement of independent craft brewers have retained their independence when giant corporations like Anheuser-Busch are trying to crush them. And they're doing so successfully in their own hometown. So that's a great one to look at.
I'm George Volsky, and I think I can add at least one insight to your question. The limited edition philosophy sort of ties into a broad premise that underlies the economies of vacation rentals, and that is this. Some homes, your better homes, are vacation destinations in their own right. They have their own market completely, and they appeal to different types of people. And so the challenge to bring these two concepts together is to take a look with your data at the particular items the types of things that bring your renters to that home. And for some, it's going to be a gourmet kitchen. For others, it's going to be a pool, so they don't have to have the kids deal with riptides. And so what you're going to find is simply that the challenge for data management and revenue management is to identify those factors, which will be different for each home. But recognizing, using your concept of limited edition is a perfect way to visualize that point. And so how you use data to price your homes, how you use data to determine what it is your challenge, and that's what you use all the tools that you choose to buy from the vendors in this room.
Love that.
Ben. Hey, Ben Coleman with Wheelhouse. I think that when you start talking, I love the how you described it, limited edition. I think that if you take that kind of to a deeper level, you're able to then group your portfolio at a much more tangible level, and then you're able to see booking velocity in each group of your portfolio, and then be able to make specific in-depth decisions to how you're going to leverage data, how you're going to leverage your booking velocity, how you're going to change your prices based on that limited edition. And then I think that you would be able to see, and I know in my experience, being able to see how that correlates from, limited edition 1 in your portfolio to limited edition 6, and then be able to correlate it all together. So to answer your question, how I think limited edition and revenue management would work together is being able to drill down your portfolio and then be able to look at it at a much bigger way. I think that's where you would go with that.
Cool. Another one here?
Actually, I'll just put a little point in from my perspective. I agree with Ben 100%. All of the owners that you manage their property for were once guests. Their data, they fell in love with the area. They fell in love with you. There's remarkable data that you can get from them, probably the best data. And that defines your niche to some degree. So, all right, who's next?
Right behind you.
I'm Terry. I'm also a marketing guy. And one of the things I've learned over time is that you want to be able to get your price up higher. But the problem is that your pricing can exceed the desirability of the property. And doing something like this increases desirability, which changes your cap. And you do have a cap of how far you can go based on how popular it is. Is the property a dime a dozen, or is a million of them just like this? So it's not really unique, but when it starts becoming unique, it starts becoming special, and the cap for what you can set the rate at increases.
Awesome.
And my name's Alex Cruz. And the one thing I'd build on, because I 100% completely agreed with that, is that it creates sustainability. Because if you can increase the cap and supply continues to increase on vacation rentals, prices are going to compress for some, but for those who increase the cap, who do the things that Floss encourages you to do, you're going to make more profitable owners, which means you can compete for more profitable owners in the future. And that's one of the biggest advantages I think that you can possibly get from focusing on that early.
Beautiful. A couple over here. And one of the examples that I found in my research was a lot of artists who will create super limited edition prints. They'll make 10. And the moment they sell the first one, the remaining 9 go up in price until there's one left that's the most desirable and the most expensive.
Hey, Matt. Question just in terms of segmenting, so the limited edition component of specifically inventory, how do property managers work on segmenting, their inventory across their website? I've seen a lot of different examples of people that just have a list of homes, and then sometimes they have, segmentation based on the destination, proximity to the beach, for instance. Can you talk at all about segmentation in terms of creating that limited edition component for the properties themselves?
The best I've seen is clustering properties in collections and presenting those collections very clearly in your top menu. These are our pet-friendly properties. These are our ski in, ski out. These are our kid-friendly properties. That's a collection. And those properties can be in a geographic destination, they could be price points, or they can be special interest or themed.
And to just add some flesh to those bones, you can look at advanced booking times. And so first you do is see which of your homes book furthest out. You can look at your occupancy rate by season and see whether a home is popular because it's a windsurfing home or because it's on the beach. So you can start slicing and dicing your homes just by looking to see which homes book best when, at what price. And you can look at your average price per bedroom, for example. And some homes are going to be 3 or 4 times more, attract more money than the others. And so you start looking at these categories and you will come up with your own unique, depending on your market and your company, categories.
Cool. Well, I think that was a pretty good Q&A. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. If anybody wants floss, come over to, I can grab the bag, Ed.
Oh, it's in the back here.
Okay, nice. Thank you guys. That was fun. And we made it through the thing. We made it through with electricity.